Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just a confirmation. Give me a head nod if you can hear me loud and clearly, and you can see me loud and clearly. Okay, I got the head nod. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Sweeting. I'm the CEO, broker, and real estate expert at OAK Bahamas. I lead a very exciting team, and our team wanted to put together this event. I'll tell you why. We wanted to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one of our core pillars in the operation of our company and in the business plan is education. And we think that generally speaking, agencies don't do a very good job of communicating and educating the public on real estate. And so one of our core pillars in the operation of our business is to educate people about real estate. It is something that you might do once, maybe twice, and if you're fortunate, more than that in your lifetime. And if you're only doing it for the first time and it is your biggest transaction in your entire life, it is reasonable that you should get some education on it. And so, as a means to provide that, we wanted to provide a forum where we brought together these industry experts to talk about not only real estate investment, but also we're going to touch very briefly on the Prime Minister's announcement of this upscale community. And so today's meeting is going to speak to a number of people and a wide gamut of people, to tell the truth. It's going to speak to someone who has big aspirations. You might still be in debt, and likely you are working towards getting out of debt towards real estate ownership. You might be on the market now looking for your first or second property or investment to get into, or you just want information. Wherever you are in the spectrum that I mentioned there, the information that we cover today is going to help you greatly. And so I want you to take your notebooks out, get ready to get a lot of information. We got an hour and we have a power-packed agenda. And so we're going to jump right into it in a moment. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists this morning, so that you could know that who you're speaking to. Just a little bit about me. I've been 14 years in real estate now. Just started my own agency after running an agency for about 5 years, and super excited about what our team is doing for the industry and the plans that we have for the market. And so let's start with Renard Henfield. Renard, why don't you give us a bit of your background and give us a slight introduction of yourself. One second, Renard. I think I have you disabled there. There you go, Renard.
All right, good. So good morning, everybody. My name is Renard Henfield. I am an attorney. I was called to the bar here in the Bahamas and England back in 2003. So I bring 18 years of experience in law, and more specifically in conveyancing law. I am also serving as a senator. So I'm pretty familiar with the Affordable Homes Act that was passed, which facilitates things like what we're doing now and discussing with the new subdivision for young professionals. I've done any number of real estate transactions over the years, the mortgages, down to representing the banks and what is called a mortgage action when persons default on mortgages. So I'm familiar with the sides of selling and purchasing land, and obviously the process with respect to the new development. And that's who I am and how I can help today.
Good. Thank you, Renard. Thank you for joining. And Renard will be my co-host today. He's gonna keep me on point. And so let's hear from Jerome Franks.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thanks again, Matt, for having me here today. My background, I'm a financial services professional. I have an accounting and investments background, about a CPA and CFA charter. Currently, I work as the head of investments for a wealth management firm. And apart from my main job, I also growing in the real estate development industry, having completed project, currently working on my second project, and have plans for a few more projects. So I'll be speaking from that side of the, I guess, the conversation as far as real estate development is concerned.
Certainly. Good to have you on. Let's hear from Doniel Davis.
Good day, everyone. I am Donnell Davis. I am the CEO and founder of Movair Architects and Steel Structures. I've been in the industry. I purchased this company back in 2017. We have done projects with SoftBank, from HSBC, Marriott, Courtyard, hotel developments, we do it. So I'm really here to speak about the construction of it all, making it work, and obviously staying within a affordable price range and how you can get a bang for your buck.
Good, good. Great to have you on as well. Let's hear from Nikita Curtis.
Hi, good morning all. My name is Nikita Curtis. I'm currently the Managing Director of Eagles Water Development and Construction. We currently focus on affordable home building. My background, former president of the Bahamas Home and Builders Trade Show, one of the largest trade shows that was ever done in the Caribbean. I've spent about 8 years at the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation as Deputy Managing Director for Business Development and Housing, working directly with the affordable homes. So my background I have extensive background in construction and development, and my professional certifications are in accounting, believe it or not, on auditing, but I've been in and out of the construction and development field for more than 30 years.
Good, good. Thanks. Good to have you on as well. Let's hear from Nathaniel Butler.
Good day, everyone. So I am Nathaniel Butler. My company is Druber Solutions. So I'm in charge of Druber Solutions. In addition to that, I'm also a real estate investor myself, with ties to the Incudes brand, and also with ties to a number of Airbnbs on the Family Islands as well. I'm also regarded as a real property tax specialist as well. My background is personal financial planning. I am a certified financial planner, and a number of certifications in the personal financial planning space as well. So thank you for having me, Matt.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on as well. Let's hear from Keith Albrecht.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Keith Albury. I am a real estate expert with OAK Bahamas, joining Matt's team when we started in January. Previously worked with Matt at Dauber Wong Realty. I've been in real estate about 3 years right now. Previously in banking for almost 30 years, with the majority of the focus being on mortgage lending. I'm also a certified financial planner as well. So I can help anybody as far as finding their property and arranging financing as well.
Okay, great, great. Okay, so very, very exciting panel we have prepared for you. These guys come with, again, a wealth of experience in development and construction. So let's get right into it then. One of the things when I put this panel together and thought about this idea, we thought it was a very timely topic based on the government's announcement of this upscale community. And when I spoke to Renaud, was probably one of the first people I spoke to about this, I contributed to an article in the newspaper about this. And some of my thoughts were around the fact that oftentimes when it's a government-led project, our demographic, and I say that very loosely, may be a little bit trepidatious about it. We may be on the fence about it. Just because we are unsure about the bureaucracy, the red tape. Will it be an equal playing field? Should I do it? Will the government successfully complete it? And even with all of those factors in play, I strongly endorse this community. I really think that it provides a unique opportunity for someone to leapfrog up the investment, up the development, up the financial ladder, to really get them on their journey towards not only real estate ownership, but real estate investment. And so the discussion today will be largely around this topic. And so we're going to jump right into it. And again, I'd really like to have you guys, if you have questions, save them questions. We're going to have 2 question and answer periods. So we're going to go into this government announcement first. We're going to go into some detail about that, and then we'll do a question and answer. And so if you have questions around this that you might have come in here with, please feel free to put those in the chat now. I think we're live on Clubhouse as well. And so Clubhouse, we really appreciate you guys joining us. We're very, very excited to start using this platform for this kind of forum, these kinds of meetings as well. And so we appreciate the people that are joining us on Clubhouse. This segment, Renard and I will kind of go back and forth. He's more of the expert. I'm more of the opinion guy here. And so Renard, why don't you tell us about the government's announcement of this upscale community?
Okay, so maybe I think it was back in 2018, the administration had any number of Bahamians express that one of the biggest dreams that we have as Bahamians, especially young Bahamians, is owning a piece of the rock. And that it is very costly to own a piece of the rock. One, costly as far as trying to afford a piece of property in New Providence, especially if you're talking about Western New Providence, where you're looking at an average $90,000 to $150,000. The legal fees incurred qualifying in the first place to acquire the land. So based on that, I think the government went down that path of, we hear why we need to do something. What can we do and how? So the why is, to try and assist Bahamians in fulfilling that dream, to lower the cost of home ownership and construction of a home, et cetera, so that persons can live that dream. So the Affordable Homes Act was passed. I think the first subdivision was somewhere in Fox Hill, and I think those lots were about $20,000. When that was done, notwithstanding the plan was to do several other subdivisions, the cry became, that we need more. And then the next that was done was on Carmichael Road. And even then the cry was, we need more. So there was another subdivision done on Carmichael Road. And it's near when you pass the curve there by the AIDS camp. I'm heading towards Bacardi Road. I think it has about 300 lots. And then the cry became, well, we see you doing for low income persons, but what's being done for the professional Bahamian, and persons above the age of 30. So then the decision was made to go up to the age of 45 on a community in the West for professionals. At all times, I think the government's concern and focus was we hear the why, what and how can we address that? So it makes no sense just to simply say to Bahamians, you can acquire a piece of land, and then they still have that issue, a hurdle to get over of the cost of construction. So you will see things like, having all the amenities included. The roads are going to be put in place and poured. The water lines, the electricity, the lamp poles, et cetera, are being put in. So that, saves costs. In addition, with what you see being done, one of the things we'll come to later, Matt, is the removal out of the picture of persons like myself and my industry as an attorney. You won't have those legal fees incurred because the Crown grant will be coming from the Office of the Attorney General. All right. So in addition to that, I think one of the concerns was, the duty is so high. Even if I were to try and build a house and you give me the land and you save me the money on an attorney, then I have to import these things at 45% duty. So then the government says, okay, very well, we're going to waive duty. And then the cry became, and then what about real property tax after I go and build myself a nice home above the 250? Then the government said, okay, fine, we're going to waive real property tax for a period of time as well. And then what you will hear, there will always be a naysayer for anything you do. So you will hear someone say, oh, you did 300 lots in Carmichael and you're doing 250 now. It's still not enough, but it is a start in the right direction. And you have to look at it as, if you can help one family get into their home, it's a good start. This is now going to be over 500 families being able to afford a home within their budget. So if it is that you want a lot for $15,000, there are lots for $15,000. If you're looking for something with persons with disability in November, the Prime Minister would have announced in November that lots that are at one price for the general public. If you have a disability, the government will do it at half price. So in other words, the government is paying half of what that person with disability would have had to pay. And again, like I've mentioned, all the other discounts. So that is the why, what is being done, and obviously the what and how we'll discuss as we go on today.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you, Renard. And so let's talk very briefly about where this upscale community is. If you guys, if you're at that roundabout at JFK, Tony Williams Darling Highway and JFK, and you're going towards Goodman's Bay, you got that Prospect Ridge Road. Right along that Prospect Ridge Road, just before you hit the light, the land that would be just east of that light, on to Sanford, all along Sanford, up to Balmoral, and everything behind the properties that you see on that street there is this land. This land is very, very good. It's in a great area. It's in neighborhoods or has neighboring communities like Skyline Drive, like Balmoral, like West Grove. And so in terms of the Prime Minister is estimating that the value of this land is going to be about $150,000 post infrastructure. They're proposing this community is going to have community trails and walking trails and a community park and pools and so all of these things, I'm in total agreement that if they do it at the level of communities that we might know of, like a West Winds or like maybe even a Venetian West in terms of the clubhouse and pool, it is undoubtable that the value that he is estimating is realistic. One of the things he talked about, and I'm going to call on Nathaniel and Keith here, one of the things the Prime Minister mentioned in his announcement is that if people buy these properties, and he noted that he has had initial discussions with financial institutions that say to him, that have indicated to him, if the land is appraised at $150,000 and people bought it for $50,000, they could potentially build with no money down. Keith, why don't you start on that topic and tell us about how does that work?
Hey guys, well, that's one of the issues I think, Renard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if the government actually consulted with the banks prior, because usually most of the banks won't look at equity on a property unless you've owned it for at least a year. So, that's one thing that has to be considered. You would have to speak with your financial institution, or you can come through me and I can find out on that. They really haven't made any changes to that as yet. A lot of banks have actually gotten more tight with lending during COVID. Once this is over, hopefully soon, we're hoping that they loosen up on their lending. So maybe they can allow something like this to happen, to where, yes, I only paid $50,000 for the lot, but it's worth $150. Can you lend me based on that equity that I already have with that purchase? So that is some of the questions we're going to have to pose to the lending institutions to find out and confirm if that's something they're going to look at right away. If they can do that, that would be a great bonus for anybody purchasing those lots.
Certainly,
So
certainly.
that's certainly one thing we need to consider and look at, with the financial institutions. Is Bank of the Bahamas going to offer something? Bahamas Mortgage Corporation, not sure. I mean, we'll have to look into that and find out, and we can get back to all our people after that.
Certainly. Good.
So no, I have similar sentiments as Keith, because the reality of it is there's limited supply in regards to lending in this type of environment right now. And Keith hit the nail on the head. It's all about being able to qualify at these local banks, because the challenge for most Bahamians, for the most part, the risk profile of many of these financial institutions have drastically changed. I think they're going to play it safe whilst we still are under the emergency orders until the country has opened up and the economy has kind of rebounded in some sense. And in addition to that, we also have to take a look at, there are a number of persons who were out of jobs last year. So with that being said, we also have to take in consideration that the possible disposable income, which would have been available for a possible down payment, they may not even have that anymore, because they may have used that as a part of their just trying to weather the storm last year. So there's a number of concerns I think would need to be addressed in this regard.
Yeah, yeah, noted. Okay, Renaud, let's talk about eligibility. What makes someone eligible for a purchase in any of these communities?
So, Matt, the eligibility would be based on the following. One, you have to be a Bahamian citizen and resident. So let's say I have two brothers living in Canada. They're Bahamian citizens, but they're not resident in the Bahamas. So they need not apply unless they're home. It makes no, the objective is, one of the objectives is we have to discontinue the brain drain on this country. And if I'm going to allow, or the government is going to allow my siblings who live outside the country where they already have a home to reach back here where they're doing well off where they are and jump and acquire the land they just put on rent, it's really not doing anything for the local economy. So the objective is you must be a Bahamian citizen that is resident in the Bahamas, not a New Providence resident, a Bahamian citizen resident in the entire Bahamas. So somebody in Inagua that's listening, somebody in Grand Bahama, you are Bahamian, you're living in the Bahamas, you've met one of the thresholds to apply for the land. Secondly, you need to be a first-time homeowner. And I think I want to expand on that or unpack that a bit. You may already own a piece of land somewhere. It doesn't exclude you because you are not a homeowner. You may own land, you may already have vacant land somewhere, but you don't own a home on that land. So you are still a first-time homeowner when you acquire this property to build a home. All right, so you can't have another house where you've already gotten exemption on before. So yeah, that then makes you a first-time homeowner in your acquisition of this property. You would then have persons who are individuals, couples, friends, business partners, or siblings. This is not just for an individual or for couples. Whether you have 2 or 3 friends that want to acquire this property, you can do so. Where it's siblings saying, well, listen, it's 2 sisters, you can go ahead and acquire a 50,000 duplex lot and build a home for each of you. It could be business partners decide, well, let's go and acquire this and then turn this place into a rental property that we rent out to an embassy for their employees here in the Bahamas, or that we just put on the market for rent. So being a Bahamian citizen under the age of 45, so let me rephrase that, 45 years old and under. So if you're 18, go ahead. If you're 45 up to this summer, go ahead and apply. So anywhere between 18 to 45, you're living in the Bahamas, you're a citizen, you're a first-time homeowner, a young professional. Young professional doesn't mean that you're a doctor, a lawyer, or accountant. It means that simply you are a professional in whichever field it is that you're in. You don't need, so this is not a subdivision for the elite, where people are thinking, is this for the doctors, lawyers, accountants, and the financial planners, the real estate agents? No, it's not. You are professional in your own field. You are 45 years and under, you live in the Bahamas, you're a Bahamian citizen, you do not have a home registered in your name, then you would qualify for this threshold. One of the concerns I think any number of persons may have, and I think a number of you hit the nail on the head, you said, our persons in our age range are always skeptical about when the government is doing something. A few weeks ago, I spoke in the Senate, and I felt a bit awkward in what I was about to say, but I know it needed to be said. I said, we as a government and leaders in this country have to get to the point where we create policies and get the hell out of the way. The government does not need to be intricately involved. Pass the law, pave the road, and get out of the way. Let the private sector do its thing. Let the people do their thing. Let them build their own homes. Let them decide who's going to be their contractor. Let them decide the design they want. And that's exactly what's being done. The government is not going in there to build low-cost homes. The government has identified 83 acres, going to cut it up into 250 lots, allocate walking paths, allocate clubhouse, tennis court, swimming pool, and then get out of the way and say to the 250 people, you go and build what it is that you want to build. And the government is out of the way.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, when we saw this initiative again, Renaud touched on some of the issues. We want to provide assistance for people who are interested in doing this. Now, there are two avenues. You can do it the normal route. You can go to bahamas.gov.bs, I think is the simplest way to get there. And on that page, if you navigate and look around for it, somewhere on that page is something about this upscale community. Then there's an application. And after you fill that application, there's an email where you need to send that. Alternatively, you can go to majorkey.com. And Major Key is spelled C-A-Y, the key in Major Key. And what we are doing is we want to employ the help of Renard and our team here to assist you in walking your application, or guiding you through the process, because we believe that we bring some value to the table. Our services here are absolutely free, and we believe that you have a better chance of doing the process through us than alternatively. We think that we can lend some assistance. And so again, that website is majorkey.com, and I'll put it in the chat here. And so let's move on to were there any questions about that? And Renard, we have Clubhouse live. If you are on Clubhouse, just give me a head nod if Clubhouse is live, Renard. Yeah. And so if you can't hear me on Clubhouse, go ahead and raise your hand or tap your mic if you wanted to comment. And in Zoom, if you wanted to have a question, if you had a question, please raise your hand now while we start to move on to the next segment here.
All right, so Matt, I do have a hand just raised, and I'm gonna, okay, somebody just brought that person up. So what I'm gonna do, Matt, just give me a moment just to reset the room for Clubhouse.
Certainly.
Good morning, everybody on Clubhouse. I see there's about 24, 25 of you on Clubhouse. On the Zoom platform, there's about 64 persons on Zoom. So Matt, you're looking at somewhere about 80 to 90 persons listening right now. And just to reset the room, the discussion this morning is Becoming a Real Estate Investor 101, organized by Matt Sweeting, OAK Bahamas. Matt just shared a website, majorkey.com, majorcay.com. And what Matt and the panel are trying to do this morning is help all of you become real estate investors. And however we can assist, everybody on the panel today is assisting free of charge. We're not asking you to pay $1. We're trying to make sure at the very least 250 of you are able to make that dream come true and acquire a piece of real estate that can be used as an investment property. All right. So on Clubhouse, Maximus, I think you had a question. Janique, you have a question. You want to go ahead? All right, so Matt, I think they are having a bit of technical issues in the interim. If there's somebody on Zoom that has a question, we can go ahead. I'll come back to those folks on Clubhouse.
Yeah, Valentino, thanks for joining. Why don't we start with your question?
Sure, thank you. The question is to Mr. Henfield. Two questions. One, Mr. Aubrey raised a very important point, and he did address that to you, but in your coming on after him, you didn't respond to his question. And that was, has the government engaged the financial institutions in reference to the initiative to accept in advance the equity in the properties? So that was addressed by Mr. Aubrey and further endorsed by another speaker. And that's a question I'd like for you to address, please. I have seen it done before in the past with Charlottesville's development, for example. I recall Fidelity did a zero down initiative when that development first came out. My second question is, you did specify it is for first-time home owners, and I just want clarity on that. That means first-time home buyers, meaning if you are a homeowner via inheritance, you are not exempt. So you may actually own a home that you have in your name now legally via inheritance that does not exempt you. Can you please speak to that? Thank you.
Renard, you're on mute if you're speaking.
So sorry. Thank you. So to answer both questions, The government has been in contact with and had conversations with local banks. So there are local banks that have expressed interest to partner with this initiative. And I'm sure by the end of this month, while I know for sure that the applications, which we'll come to later on, will be out during the summer, I know behind the scenes, the government has already had those conversations. The announcements will be made in short order as to the lending institutions that will be partnering. There are some institutions whose name I will not call, who are extremely reluctant to take risks at this time. As was mentioned earlier, any number of persons in this country have lost their jobs. However, there are any number of persons in this country who have been booming due to the pandemic. So while the pandemic on one hand has been very disadvantageous to some, there are some professionals and persons in this country who have been doing well. Their businesses have increased or they started new businesses. So yes, the government has spoken to a few local institutions who are on board, and the Prime Minister, of course, will make the announcement as to who they are and what is the proposal. Your second question, just remind me again what the second question was. I think it was about first-time homeowners and inheritance. So,
Yes.
first-time homeowners, for us in law, means you have a parcel of land with a structure on it, a residential property being a single-family home or a duplex, that you have bought and gotten exemption from the government for your stamp duty. You would then be considered a first-time homeowner. When you got that and you would have gotten the exemption, you were entitled to an exemption, your lawyer should have applied for it for you. If you have not applied for the exemption, then you will still be able to make an application, even though you have received this property, let's say from a grandparent or a parent. You now have a house that your grandfather or your father, etc., left to you. You would not have applied for any exemption. So yes, it's in your name, but you are now able to go and acquire these pieces of property as a first-time homeowner, and you'd be getting the exemption. So you're not excluded because someone left you a house. That was nothing on your part. You didn't go and ask somebody to convey a house to you. You were left a house. That would not exclude you. If you have a piece of property you bought just last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's vacant land, you would not be a first-time homeowner. If it's a triplex, a commercial property, you wouldn't have met the qualification for the residential single-family home or duplex to get the exemption. So you will not be excluded. All right. So if need be, I think tomorrow in the Senate, I can address that as well with the Attorney General there for him to clarify as well. So after this call, I'll ask him to speak up tomorrow in the Parliament to make sure Bahamians understand clearly who is a first-time homeowner. I hope I answered both questions.
Yep. Thank you, Renard. Let's have Melbria Hall. Thanks for joining us. Melbria, let's have your question.
Hi, thank you for having me, and thank you for this platform. My question was similar to Mr. Bethel's question. However, you answered everything that I wanted to know, but I still want to know, even though you're a homeowner, you will be considered a first-time homeowner, would you still be able to then purchase property? I know it's more so about qualifying to be that person to own it, but would I still be able to purchase if I wanted to anyway? So what if I have a duplex already, but then I may want to move into a neighborhood rather than living on the side of my tenants or something like that? So being a first-time owner, am I still able to actually purchase in the community?
All right. So again, when we discuss the issue of the eligibility, you have to be a first-time homeowner. So if you have a duplex, what you'd want to do is check with when you bought that duplex to see if when you acquire that property, if you apply to the government for exemption as a first-time homeowner. There's a whole act that was passed on it many years ago. I can't remember the administration, but that said, you can apply for the stamp duty exemption as a first-time homeowner. So if you've done that, you do not qualify for this because this is meant for people acquiring their first homes, and they're actually buying their first home. So if you've already bought a duplex or bought a piece of property, built a duplex and got the exemption as a first-time homeowner, then you've already passed that stage. You can't be a first-time homeowner twice. This will be meant specifically for persons who are doing it, buying a piece of property to build a home or a house for the first. All right, hope I answered that question. And Matt, before I guess you can move on to another question, then I can go to the Clubhouse questions, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think so we got a couple of questions in the chat, and what I'd like, let's take one question from Clubhouse. Let's see how that goes. Just so that we try to stick to time. What it appears is going to happen, just because we're getting such great questions, is we might go over. We're recording this and we'll reproduce this. And so if you have not done so, some people on Clubhouse might be hearing this. What we'd like you to do is go to oneoak242.com. What that allows us to do is be able to send you the recording of this in case you get knocked off, in case your signal is bad, in case you can't stay for the whole thing. We'll be able to send the recording to you later. So please be sure to visit oneoak242.com. That's the number 1. Let's take one question from Clubhouse, and then I want some of the panelists to, if they're able to, and Renard, if you can as well, let's start answering some of the Zoom questions in the chat so that we can move forward with the agenda. Let's get a question from Clubhouse.
Matt, I'm just going to unmute the mic, forgive me. There's a question coming from Clubhouse from Janique Camp, and I'm going to do a shameless plug for Janique Camp. Janique Camp is a professional land surveyor, and Janique's question is, she has a friend who is in Grand Bahama who would have acquired a condominium, but she never, applied for first-time homeowners exemption, et cetera, before. So it's a similar question to what was raised before. Would this person be able to apply for a piece of this property, be that she's never received any benefits from the government as a first-time homeowner? And as I've said earlier on the platform, on the Zoom call, I'll reiterate again for Janique and everybody on Clubhouse, that you would not have gotten a first-time homeowners exemption before. So by all means, you can apply for this property. And secondly, what I've said to her prior to coming on Zoom again just now is that in the Senate tomorrow, when we debate this resolution for this 83 acres, I will have the AG speak to it clearly to clarify for everybody in the country that whether you've inherited property or you have a triplex or condominium, that you're still able to apply. So that clarification will be made tomorrow in the Senate by the Attorney General. All right, Janique?
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Janique. Okay. I see Ava's question. I see Joash. I see Delana. Renard, if you could answer those in the Zoom, and then we'll come back to those later. We'll share it audibly so that everybody could hear it. But I want to move forward. Keep the questions coming, guys. We really want to make sure we're providing real value for you to take away from this, whether it's specific to this upscale community or otherwise. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. Those on Clubhouse, continue to send your messages to Renard, and then we'll move forward. The next segment, we wanted to talk to Jerome Franks and interview him about development. And Jerome, in his response to me when I asked him about this, he said, "Matt, I'm Balmoral, I'm One Cable Beach." But I think Jerome is at the perfect place to provide real value to this audience, because very few people, if anyone, in the audience is Balmoral, One Ocean, One Cable Beach. And I think Jerome is at the right place. Jerome is a professional with a full-time job, right? And so he fits the demographic that we are. We are, to a larger degree, otherwise employed. We have full-time jobs, but we want to supplement our income in some way. And so we have a couple of questions for Jerome. Renard, do we want to reset the Clubhouse room right quick before we get into this? Let's do that.
All right. So good morning again to everybody on Clubhouse. I really can't count how many persons are here on Clubhouse, Matt. It's a pretty big number. But the discussion this morning is becoming a real estate investor 101. This is being organized by Matt Sweeting, a real estate expert. We have a panel of about 7 to 8 persons here on the Zoom. So those of you who are interested in joining via Zoom to actually see your presenters, the meeting ID is 826-9043-0343, and the passcode is 101. I'll repeat. Meeting ID is 826-9043-0343, and the passcode is 101. We are discussing real estate investments, and it is not specifically just to the subdivision the Prime Minister has announced, but it is one that we have been spending some time discussing so far. And if you want, you can post questions on the Zoom chat room or here on Clubhouse, and I will then read it to the panel. And again, the reason why Matt has organized this is because Matt appreciates that any number of persons in this country want to acquire a piece of property and a home and may be confused as to how you can do it. And Matt is offering the assistance of not only himself, but he's volunteered every one of us on the panel to assist free of charge to the benefit of all Bahamians today. So if you are interested in becoming a real estate investor, not a real estate agent, a real estate investor, learning how to acquire land, how to save on duty, how to save on real property tax, how to save on stamp duty, the whole financial planning, the construction process. There are any number of professionals on the call today. So by all means, join the Zoom call if you want, or you can follow the club here on Clubhouse, which is Bahamas Caribbean World. And for those of you on Clubhouse, just tap that green Monopoly house at the top so you can follow him whenever Matt is doing this session again. You'll be notified. All right, Matt?
Hi, sorry, can we get the Zoom details time, please? Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry, Matt. So Clubhouse is asking for the Zoom details again. Yep. So the meeting ID is 826-9043-0343. That's 826-9043-0343. And the passcode is 101. So if you go and log on there, Matt will bring you into the Zoom call. But I think on Clubhouse, Matt, I'm looking at about 30 persons on Clubhouse, and then here on Zoom, I think we're up to, let's check that.
We're
70, so that's 100 persons right there. So the web majorkey.com if you need any assistance. All right,
Mike. Thanks again, Renard. Appreciate your help. So let's get into this. And again, we want to provide real value here, and we want to move very quickly. And so, Jerome, give us value, but give us it kind of quickly as well. So first question is, why development as a supplemental source of income?
Sure. Well, there were three real factors that contributed to me deciding this venture. My first project was a duplex townhouse where I live in one half and sell the other unit, which is a common format for a lot of people. And I put my unit on the market last year, March, right before COVID. So there was a lot of interest in the unit. So that was very encouraging. And secondly, I think with COVID really demonstrated to me the importance of having a second active stream of income versus just having your job and passive income like a lot of us do. The second active stream. And I think thirdly, going through the construction process, I actually enjoyed it. Even though it's stressful, even though there's a lot of risks involved, I also believe in doing something that you enjoy doing. So those three factors, I think the interest in it, the demand was there. So I was like, why not create more supply?
Yep. Yeah. Good. And so where have you developed? Tell us a little bit about your first development and your second. Well, tell us about the first one.
Well, the first one, like I said, was duplex townhouse development in the West Bay Street area. My second / current project is also in West Bay Street, more specifically West Winds. I felt it was important to choose a high demand area, given that I want to sell. As a realtor, I think location is probably half the battle. And we all see all of these different developments popping up in the West, and I think that's not by mistake. Like I said, the West is a high area, so that's where I intend to continue to invest. Perhaps maybe eventually expand into maybe other islands, or maybe in the East if a really good opportunity comes up. But primarily, it seems to be the West for investments.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in total agreement. What's the profit potential of micro developments? And again, Jerome and I think him and I had this discussion about doing micro developments. And obviously it comes back to qualification, but it also comes back to feasibility as well. Could the market really absorb larger developments? And so Jerome's first and second project are duplexes, so it's 2 units. Why? What's the profit potential in micro developments?
Uh, Profits can definitely vary. Not just from my experience, so with other persons I know who also do developments as well. It can vary from a loss to selling at break even, or even more than double your investment. It depends on a number of different factors. Obviously, we don't have time to get into all of them, but just high level. One, your ability to manage your project and the cost. I think one of the most important factors is definitely your access to capital. And we spoke about, well, some of the panelists spoke about it earlier as to how strict or tight the banks have become, COVID, and even stemming from Dorian as well. So a combination of that, access to capital isn't as loose as it perhaps used to be. So your ability, definitely, if you have more capital that you can inject into the project, you're able to have better control of your costs, keep your costs down. You're also able, if you have enough capital, to remove the middleman if you want to manage it yourself, and not do it a contractor and hire your people directly, which is the route that I went. You remove the middleman. You also take on more risk in that way as well. But from a profits perspective, you hire your people directly, your trades directly, and obviously you can increase your profits like that as well. I'll give you a quick simplified example, just very high level. Let's say you have about 50,000 and you have access to capital and you're able to borrow, let's say 400,000, and you do your project, let's say you sell it at 600,000, and let's say maybe after you pay the bank back, your closing cost, miscellaneous, you walk away with about 125,000. That's 125,000 off of 50,000 that you started out with. So that's almost 3 profit. Like I said, very simplified, but that's the importance of access to capital. There again, like I said, there are also a lot of risks involved as well. So whereas it may sound good, you also have to consider that as well. And obviously your profits can grow with the size of your development. Personally, my current development that I'm working on, when completed, I expect it to be valued at a little under $1 million. I expect my next project to probably be double the value of that. And I expect to continue to grow. At some point, I may choose to bring on a partner and do even larger projects. Obviously, you and I have spoken on a lot of different ideas. It's because there's a lot of opportunity out there. So I would say for individuals, definitely if you have a partner or a group, an investment group, you can jump straight into either the micro or a much larger project if you want to really I guess take advantage of scale right away. But I'd say for fellow person starting, don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've completed a project. You're now on to your second development.
Mm-hmm.
What strategic improvements or lessons you may have learned from development number 1 now that you're going to take into development number 2, in short?
Improvements, definitely going through it. Like I said, I manage my own project, so I'm a contractor. So definitely one of the best improvements is knowing my people, having my network. I know who to hire. I know who to, when it comes to the architect, the who to deal with at the bank. I already established a network of people I deal with. I have a list of not a list, but I have a network of realtors who I deal with when it comes to selling as well. So just having that, and when through your first project, I don't know the stats on it, but I would imagine that it's pretty high just from talking to people. But I feel like most people go through at least one contractor, a building, just because there's always some headache involved. And I don't know, I just see a lot of people I speak with, they always seem to have at least one or two, maybe even two contractors they dealt with on a project. So just having that network in place, having that experience, it also helps you to manage your costs. It helps you to avoid or mitigate, I would say, hidden costs or overhead costs that for a novice, you really would have no idea about unless somebody told you.
Yep, certainly good. And you know, guys, the two things that really stood out to me in what he just said. Number one, it's the team, and you know, I kind of had that in my opening comments that you know, one of the talents in succeeding, or one of the things that are going to help you to succeed in real estate investment development, real estate generally, is putting together that team. And so you have a number of these players, or at least the roles here that you would need in place to build a successful team: construction, realtor, attorney, architect, contractor, financial planner, and so forth. Any suggestions for aspiring developers?
Sure. I would say first and foremost, understand the risk of the real estate development. Like you said earlier, real estate or purchasing or building a home isn't the biggest investment somebody makes. It's a huge part of your net worth. So once you get started on a project, it's very difficult to exit that project without prior to completion. Well, it's very difficult to do it without taking a loss. So definitely understand the risks involved. I always tell people, don't start a project unless you know how you're going to finish it, unless you know how you're going to finance it. Definitely do not start a project. We have examples all over town of projects where people start and can't finish, or take 5-6 years to finish. Obviously, it's very difficult to be profitable when your project is extended that long. Next major question, I would say find a mentor, somebody who is fully versed in construction and development, and you know, just kind of pick their brain, learn as much as from them. Obviously, you can avoid. They say a wise man avoids you know, other people's mistakes. So you could definitely learn create a lot of efficiencies just through having a mentor and you know, I mean, just learning from that person. Your mentor already has an established network, so they definitely can refer people to you and give you pretty much a head start on the whole development.
Yeah. You open to mentoring some of these people in this group today?
Well, I see a couple of my proteges in the participants group. So yeah, definitely if somebody wants to reach out to me for a question or two, that's fine. I think you have us tagged in our LinkedIn, so that's probably the best way to reach me. Is connected to my phone, so I'll get your message.
Yeah, good. We appreciate you being on, and thank you for your contribution. Okay, so guys, if you had questions for Jerome, put them in the chat, and we're going to try to get to them when we get through the meat of our agenda. We want to move on to financial planning now, and to lead this discussion, we're going to be asking or talking with Nathaniel Butler of Druba Solutions. Nathaniel, we want to talk firstly about, you know, when we talk about this upscale development or development generally, me and Keith ran some numbers the other day, and to buy a property, just a single family home or even a duplex, to buy real estate at $250,000, on average, at minimum, you need somewhere to the tune of about $40,000 in savings, which is crazy, right? And so, Nathaniel, let's start the discussion around I'm interested in development, but I got to get my finances in order. Let's start there.
No, you made a really good point. You could hear me good, right? Because
Yeah.
I had to make a switch. Okay, no, so here's the challenge for a lot of Bahamians. Not everyone has a real estate or home ownership expert in their family. And so as a result of that, we make a lot of bad decisions in our youth. We get a lot of bad debt. And as a result of that, we don't, in a lot of cases, have good saving habits. And so when we reach that age or we reach that awareness that we want to jump into the home ownership market or the investment market, we are really we encounter the shock of our life. One, we discover that we're over the debt service ratio. Two, we discovered that, like you said, what is required from a down payment and closing costs together. And then three, we also discovered that we may have, if we have enough, we might end up being what we call house poor. We have nothing else remaining to deal with our other immediate needs and expenses. So for the person who wants to participate in this initiative, let's just say that they have a few bad debts. They can kind of quickly put themselves on the schedule, smallest to largest, look at balance, interest rate, and monthly payments. And if there is a desire to get rid of it very quickly, I would say see if there's a second job, a task that you could do for family, friends to raise enough revenue or income to eliminate that debt as quickly as possible. Another thing I want to also sensitize everyone to that is not being shared a lot. We have the credit bureau that is here gathering information, and soon, very, very soon, we expect, based on the projection of the central bank, that the information will be readily available after summer. So with that being also said, we also have your credit score will also, not in this project, but I mean in other real estate investment initiatives, that will also play a factor as well in regards to what your interest rate would be like. How would the banks deal or deal with you? But last but not least, I would say for savings, for the most part, get connected with a financial institution, whether it's a bank or more importantly, credit union or saving societies, where you can have kind of like an ASU type of, you make a deposit, you only withdraw once a year or twice a year type of arrangement. If you struggle with savings, and try your endeavor best to get an idea of what place you want to have your investment or what place you would want to have your home. So you have an idea of what you would need for a down payment and how much it costs for you to qualify. So now you're just not saving just for saving's sake, but you're now saving to hit a goal, saving to hit a target. In addition to that, whilst you're saving, whilst you're doing this, gather more information about the construction process, the renovation process, so you can have a better understanding of how much money you can really dump in to bring the costs down in regards to borrowing from the financial institution as well, or having the dumping more of a down payment in to bring even the interest rate down or shorten the loan period. The last and most important thing I want to say is that you can control this conversation by what you bring to the table. When you sit before a financial institution, it's a negotiation. It's a negotiation. A lot of people are not aware of that. And you can negotiate depending on what assets you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, good, good. I want to take this opportunity, this opportunity to do two things. Number one, guys, we know that we had allocated 11 to 12. We'd love you to stay with us, but if you have to go, we really appreciate you spending this time with us. Again, as I promised, we will produce this as a recording for you to consume later. But we need you to register so we know where to send it. You can do that registration at 1oak242.com. That's the digit 1, oak242.com. And we'll continue on with this discussion a little bit longer. Panelists, if any of you need to go, send me a DM, and then I'll kind of move you on the agenda, or we'll make some adjustments. We appreciate you staying on as long as you could. Nathaniel, I want to talk about, I think I got an email from you recently about an event that you're doing. Was that, yes? Let's talk briefly about that. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, so we were talking about the credit bureau. we're just raising, first and foremost, this is Financial Literacy Month, so I really appreciate you and also Renard for doing an event like this, just raising awareness of financial literacy in this month. And secondly, we were just briefly just talking about some points around the credit bureau because very little said about it. And we know how the credit bureau in the industry that is going to affect the average individual. I won't say that it's associated to this project in particular, but I'm saying in the years to come, it will affect how you interact with the financial institutions going forward.
Yeah. And so are you hosting an educational event this month? Did I notice that, or am I mistaken?
No, you're right. So we're hosting we're hosting a series of topics along the lines of the credit bureau, just educating persons on their rights. I'll just briefly, just quickly go through some of the points that were mentioned already. First and foremost, that the information that the credit bureau is gathering on you is limited. It's limited information. It's not a whole lot, but I would say this, that the information that they're gathering, in order for a financial institution, say like, for example, a bank, want access to that information, one, they have to get your authorization. So I want to make sure that is also very clear. You are also going to be entitled to a free copy of your credit information on an annual basis. And also, if you're denied credit because of some negative information on your credit report, you will be able to see it. Now, let's just say that you're in the right and that information is in the wrong. You have the right to complain or make an application to the credit bureau. You also have a right to dispute any inaccurate information to the credit bureau in regards to your credit report. And last but not least, we also want to make mention that the credit bureau will take the necessary steps to make sure that they have accurate information. So once they would have done their investigation, they will amend the report as seeing fit based on their findings. And you could only, I want to make this very clear, you can only access the information for certain purposes, not for any and every purpose, but for only certain purposes, you can access that information from the credit bureau. But every Tuesday on Druba Solutions, our handle is Druba Solutions on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can find our webinar if you want to be involved, or if you want to ask any questions to the experts.
Certainly. Spell Druba for us, please.
Druba is spelled Drewber. And we have a lot more information in regards to just financial literacy and personal finances on the whole as well.
Good. Thanks for your contribution, Nathaniel. Jerome, let me not even try. The organization that you're associated with is hosting an event as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, for those of you who may not be familiar with me, I am the president of CFA Society, the Bahamas, and we actually have a financial literacy series as well that kicks off tomorrow. Our first topic is saving and budgeting, and it'll be a weekly series, 4-part series. Next week will be investing, followed by, well, investing in yourself as well as investment products. Once again, similar to this, it's all educational. Specifically, nobody is there to market or sell you anything or promote their business. It's all educational. Following that, we'll also have a session on home ownership. We discuss a lot of these matters as well, how one goes about becoming a homeowner, purchasing land, development, that kind of stuff as well. And similar to the other series, we also have somebody from the credit bureau that will speak to your credit rating and how that will affect you, and how you can also utilize it, as well as how other people, include perhaps your landlord or other financial institutions, will also utilize your credit report. So it's very, very informative as well. I encourage you to attend both. Gather as much information as you can, help you make the best decisions, to propel yourself forward.
Yeah, And Jerome, could we have you
Yeah,
post?
thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Certainly. Could we have you post a flyer to that in the chat here for the members to see, and also send it in our group so that Renard could share that with somehow with those members on Clubhouse. Yep. And so
Okay,
members
sounds good.
members on Clubhouse, if you would like to see this event that Jerome just spoke about, go ahead and DM Renard, and he'll be able to forward that flyer to you. Yeah. Let's move on to our next segment then. Right now, we want to talk with Keith Albury. And Keith is such a valuable member of our agency team because he wears multiple hats, and the hats is he, for our agency, before we take a client out, we have them talk to Keith first to ensure that they're qualified, that they have sat with their bank already and know what they can purchase. So Keith, let's talk about qualification. What is that? What is pre-qualification? Why is this something that people should be interested in?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, pre-qualification. I see a lot of realtors are now starting to do that for clients or ask clients to get that done. Being a mortgage broker also with OAK Bahamas allows me to do that for our clients. Basically, you want to know what the client qualifies for before you take them out there and show them any property. In addition to letting them know what they qualify for, I also will let them know, well, if you're looking for a house costing $250, this is the amount of money you're going to need to have in order to do that. When you go to the bank, or when I send your application to the bank, the first thing you're going to look for is, do they have the down payment and the closing costs? Like Matt said, that can be a sizable amount. So you don't want to waste time showing people a property they can't afford, for one, and or showing properties to persons who don't qualify. So you're wasting your time, their time, the owner's time, everybody's time. So it's very important that we sit down with them. I mean, right now we're doing everything over the phone, but it's just a simple phone call. Basically, we just need to know what their gross income is, what loans or credit cards they currently have, and that can help us determine exactly what they qualify for as far as going to a bank. Now, each lending institution is a little bit different as far as what they will finance, but they're basically in the same area. And like Matt said, one thing we like to do is we try to provide the full guidance to our clients, because I think that's the biggest thing Bahamians need, is getting the right guidance in order to get where they want to be.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, so one thing that people don't usually realize, and it varies from mortgage broker to mortgage broker, is that in Keith's case, his service is absolutely free. A mortgage broker is paid by the financial institution to help them find clients, and he's only paid for successful results. So what that means is that he has a unique motivation to make sure that you get a loan. And in the case of a mortgage, Keith probably dabbles in consumer, but he specializes in mortgages. And so in your particular case, this is why I like the mortgage brokerage arrangement, because if you went to your financial institution, your primary institution, they could only offer you their rates, their terms, their details. A mortgage broker, his goal now is to shop your application around to these different institutions to get you the best rate, the best terms for your mortgage. And his service to you is absolutely free. So anyone that's ever purchased, you realize how taxing of a process it is. You need to prepare essentially a package for the financial institution to start the process. Keith is now going to do all of that for you for free. And so when you talk about putting the team together, Keith is a valuable member of that team to be able to not only ensure you get the mortgage, but to reduce the amount of legwork you have to actually put into it as well. Oftentimes, a number of things that oftentimes what we see is because you don't know the system. Keith has worked in banking for 30 years. And so it could just be one little line item that makes or breaks a deal. It might be the fact that you have a supplemental income and you need to indicate that. It might be that listen, you're about to end a loan at Furniture Plus. All of these minute details, he knows how to work to get you the result that you need. And so reach out to Keith Albury. His email is keith@oneofbahamas.com. And his number, I don't think he minds me giving it out, is 525-9166. Feel free to reach out to him for any mortgage consultation. Keith, thank you for your contribution. Appreciate having you on the team, brother. I want to talk now about building and architecture. And to lead this conversation, we're going to have Donnell Davis and Nikita Curtis. Donnell, why don't you tell us a little bit about Mover Architects? We heard some of these big projects that you've worked on. Tell us what, more specifically, your New Providence branch of your firm is looking to do here on island, and have done, sorry.
Okay, so I'm the CEO and founder, once again, of Mover Architects and Steel Structures. Presently, we're in over 80 countries. Some of our biggest clients are from Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, and then Latin America, Panama, Brazil, Dominican Republic, and then of course the United States. So what we do is basically revolutionize what modern architecture is like. And my decision to enter, the Bahamian market is to basically diversify what we have right now. I think the biggest challenge is the square houses that we have, the obnoxious pitched roof, the big walls, tiny windows. I get it every day. If there's not a single day where what I would call the antiquated, inundated architectural designs land on my desk, it breaks my heart. And it absolutely breaks my heart because what you're paying, or what people are paying for the traditional structures or the traditional designs, they aren't fully aware that you can get a luxury or a modern design for similar pricing. And that's what we do when it comes to our steel systems. So we have a few projects. We actually just entered the Bahamian market. We were significantly delayed due to COVID-19. We had plans to launch last year, March, but we were unable to because our very last shipment leaving from Port Everglades got stopped and turned back around. And what we had to do is basically recycle the steel that we had. So we launched in December, and from there we just blew up. So we have a few projects coming on stream right now, some single family, multifamily. We have an airport project. We have a hospital project. We have so many projects right now that we have to take on. And the biggest thing that I try to let people know is when you go to our website, when you go to our page, when you see our social media, people automatically assume, well, okay, they cost like a fortune. Actually, we don't. Right now, we are, what I would say is cutting the market in half in what we offer, the models and the kind of designs that we offer for our clients. We specialize in modern construction. Then we have the ultra modern, then you have the ultra luxury modern that we specialize in. So anything, once again, traditional, or anything that would be old school, or anything that's inundated, we typically do not deal with. And, for us, what we want to do is basically show the government, we have, proposed some designs to them, like this is what we can do with modern construction. With our steel systems, we typically do what conventional cannot do. And I also have to basically sway the idea, because when people think of steel systems in this country, no offense, and I'm not trying to badmouth anyone, they typically compare our systems or ask us if our systems are like the Venetian, or if they're like the plaza that is at Success Training College, and I let them know that we're not. Typically what we do in our engineering process is manipulate heavy grade industrial steel to fit residential purposes. So the framing of your home, the structural component of your home is like we're building, let's say, a complex, commercial building, an industrial shop or something of that nature. That's the structural component of your home. And we will come in with a lighter steel mechanism for your structure. But the biggest thing around our structures is the fact that they are scientifically engineered. We don't send, what we would send to Dubai or to Brazil or to the United Kingdom, we won't send to the Bahamas. So we have a few projects that we would have done at Turks and Caicos. We did at British Virgin Islands. We did a few schools in Haiti. And most of these projects came back post-Dorian. Not post-Dorian, post-Matthew. Many persons got, word around how our systems formed during Matthew. So that's how we really divulged and entered the market. And then when Dorian came, a few of our structures that we did out of Florida were some of the only few standing structures that were left that were untouched and untapped. So many persons I think they were trying to figure out how was this structure able to withstand this weather and things like that. And once again, that's because we scientifically engineer our structures down to the T, and then we run simulations on our structures. So in the engineering process, once again, we do a computer simulation where we could run your structure to whatever miles per hour winds that you wanted. For example, the airport project that we're doing hurricane winds up to 700 miles per hour. That's like, God, if category 10 were to touch down, how would this airport perform? So we're not limited on what we can do, what we can manufacture. We've done it all. We continue to do it all. A lot of the banks trust us globally. Like I would have mentioned, HSBC is one of our biggest banks that we have done, and we continue to do projects for them. SoftBank, we have done for DoubleTree, Courtyard by Marriott. We have done the Oxford University dorms. So basically the strength, what we're trying to do is just bring the structural capacity, the strength of our buildings, the modernness, and obviously the affordableness to the Bahamas. And we're not just what I would have mentioned, architectural and engineering of steel structures, where everything we engineer and we manufacture the finishes, from your doors to your kitchen cabinetry to your tiling. We manufacture all of that. And then we contract with qualified GCs that can construct our steel systems, because once again, our steel systems are not the atypical steel systems. We are fairly different in what we do. In your costs, we also include a project management fee. Well, not a project management fee, project management. That is included in your cost. And that company is to act as a third-party mediator, just to make sure that our clients are not taken advantage of, that our structures are not compromised, our quality is not compromised. Basically that we are providing and the contractor is doing what they promise us that they are going to do. The biggest thing in this country is that, as someone would have mentioned, persons find themselves dealing with contractors who would have screwed them over, ripped them off, just take full advantage of them, especially single women and women with children. We're actually dealing with a reconstruction project right now, a woman who just was taken advantage of. So that's where our third-party mediator, not project management firm, comes in. We put warranty on our structures because, at the end of the day, I'm not going to promise to you something that I know our structures cannot do. And if I'm telling you that's what we are going to do, I back my word with a warranty. Right. It's cheaper for us to get it done right the first time. I don't want to have to spend money on landing a new steel structure or constructing an entire development over. So I just get it right the first time. So like I would have mentioned, we are start to finish straight down. We offer in-house pre-qualifications. Then we also offer in-house, with real estate, helping clients find the land. And then we also even straight down to sales of our systems. For example, we have a client who is doing a development and they want to get the system sold. We have a global presence. So for example, one of the houses that we did out of Florida was actually sold to one of our clients in Dubai before it even ended, before the construction was even done. That's because we have a large market share right now globally. So, you know, we assist with the sales, we assist with the marketing, we assist with the development. We are from start to finish. I tell clients, the only thing you need to move is yourself, because we have the trucks to move for you.
Right.
But we make the process seamless, and I typically tell clients, let us take on the headache. We don't want you to have the headache. Let the process be as seamless for you, because construction is not a walk in the park. There are going to be days where you hate your contractors. There are going to be days where you hate us.
Right.
But I typically say you end the day by saying that you love us, you love your system, you love the house that you're in, and you know that the house that you're in is a safe, secured system. And we have proven that our system outbeats, you know, the conventional system by a marker. When we submit our files to the Ministry of Works and Housing, just to put a comparison next to what we can do, what our structures have been proven to do in the conventional, we turn tables with it all the time. But it does not mean that because your system is stronger, safer, better, more modern, smarter, that it's more expensive. Actually, it's significantly cheaper in construction. So that's Mover Architects and Steel Structures. And, you know, we are excited. We, like I said, just entered the market, but we have went viral and what we are about to do. And I'm excited, especially for the government projects and putting people in beautiful homes, not homes that look like what we're used to dealing with, but homes that you can love. And it's your dream house, something that you want to spend the rest of your life in.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you. And so still on this topic of building and architecture, Nikita, why don't you contribute here? Nikita, in his time at a former employee, has completed a development of steel structures. And so we see him and Donnell as a great synergistic partnership, because he is the builder. Donnell is the manufacturer of the system. So she is not the actual contractor per se. She partners with contractors. And so Nikita might be the person who has worked in steel structures before. I had some of those plans up that Donnell and Mover Architects have produced. They are amazing. I was wowed when I saw them the first time.
Thank you.
And so, Nikita, why don't you talk very briefly about the development that you've worked in before, and Bahamians generally feel like, you know, I know concrete. How do we now help them to appreciate that steel is a better option? Let's talk about construction time and costs.
Thank you, Matt. My company, Eagles Water Development and Construction, and I said earlier that I spent some time with the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation as Deputy Managing Director for Business Development. As it relates to steel structures and steel construction, as was said earlier, most Bahamians are familiar with the concrete and steel. And so when you come out with these systems like Donnell is talking about, people have some kind of reservation. But if you sit, it's a matter of educating our clients. And a lot of times we spend educating the client on the system, on the structure, and understanding the benefits and the cost relationships. And what you can do with the steel structures compared to traditional construction. If you just take a look at the designs that Donnell had shown earlier, you'll see that they are much more modern, they are much safer, they are more economical. The construction cost is cut down, I would say probably about 40%. In terms of cost, you can save somewhere around 20 to 30% of construction costs with these modern designs. Now, there has been, unfortunately, some systems or some structures around the country that has failed and that has contributed to, I guess, the reluctance by Bahamians. And I'll say this, and even as it relates to our traditional homes, what I think has been the problem is, unfortunately, is more of a construction error or a lack of proper diligence from the contractors that that contributed to these type of things. And if you look at the structures that I'm familiar with, they were more of a hybrid steel structure as opposed to the complete steel structure. And what that means is that we use a bit of concrete, to supplement the columns and some of the belts and some of the columns that help to pacify the consumers. But when you look at the steel structure, and Donald spoke about having the wind test and for hurricanes, you find that these type of structures can be tested in terms of what capacity of hurricane they could resist, and you can get all the necessary works from those. And I guess, and as I said earlier, you're going to have some cost savings from the construction time. You're going to have a more efficient home. You have less leakage in terms of air conditioning for energy. You're able to keep out the cold during the cool times that we have in the Bahamas, and then the hot times in the summer, you're able to separate the heat on the exterior and keep the house nice and cool on the inside. And so you've got a significant amount of advantages with these system homes. There was some talk earlier about construction in the Bahamas, and yes, you can get a number of horror stories. And I said the way you mitigate these things from the beginning is every project that we do, we sit with a consultation with our clients from the beginning before we do anything. And Keith and everybody else has spoke about pre-qualifications so clients could know what they qualify for. I have a number of clients that come to me with plans that they can't qualify to build because they got the plans built. And when you do an assessment, there's a significant difference between what they can qualify and the plans that they have. So you have to do all of these things: documentation, contracts. Every contractor should issue you a contract. Included in that contract is something we call the specification of works, which outlines every single thing that should go into that house. And most of the times they come from the plan. So if you get a plan from Donald and those, I'm sure you're going to have all your schedules. The schedule can tell you windows, doors, finishes, all the rest of that stuff. And these things are to be signed off on and agreed to in the beginning of the project. So avoid any issues during the construction phase. So again, I think that's very, 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 very important. And when we talk about system homes, while behemoths are resistant to them, is the way of the future. It reduces our costs, it reduces the construction time. And so I think it's the way to go. And again, like you say, I think if you look at those designs by Mover, you will find that they're very, very modern.
Yeah. And so when we compare traditional construction versus steel construction, how much of a reduction in time are we talking, Nikita?
We're talking about a reduction time of about 40 to 50%, depending on the systems.
Yeah.
How much time you prepare, because in talking about Donald and those, you realize that once you get started on the project, by the time the items are delivered, you're basically going from having all the preparation done, the pre-prep done. So when the system comes, I think you've got somewhere around 8 weeks or so, depending on the size and all the rest of that, to basically have that superstructure up and start doing your finishes. So you're saving a significant amount of time. Right now, the average contractor takes somewhere in the vicinity about 6 months to complete an average size home. And you can cut significantly with the structure, with the package. So once the steel structure comes in, you're basically erecting everything from that standpoint. Yeah. And again, the shorter the time, the less construction costs it is in terms of labor.
Right. And just to piggyback off of that, that's where the project management side comes in too, because at the end of the day, we typically say there's no excuse why the contractor should take long on anything. When we land our shipments or our containers, it's absolutely everything that's needed to do that construction. From, like I would have mentioned, from your steel to your walls, insulation to your cabinetry, your tiling, absolutely everything, your lighting. So, just on a global experience of what we've dealt with, usually when our shipment lands, or 2 weeks prior out to when our shipment lands, the lead project manager would contact the GC to tell them to mobilize or at least start the foundation, so that it gives it enough time for that foundation to cure, so that the minute that container lands on that site and we hand that over, construction starts. We provide all of the scheduling for absolutely everything, straight down, once again, to the doors and the windows. We also provide an instruction manual on how to assemble or how to construct our systems. So once again, there's no excuse as to why, even dealing with contractors. We've had it before. When I say we've gotten absolutely everything on a global level, we've dealt with the excuses some of these contractors come up with, and we're always able to mediate that because we're like, well, why is it this and why is it that? And if you cannot get it done, that's why you're signed under our project management firm, because no one's going to take advantage of our clients. So the minute we feel that there is a problem or that somebody is trying to compromise our structures, you will be fired from that job, and we'll bring somebody else just as qualified or even more qualified on. That's something we do not play about because it's a brand. And this is something, once again, we back our structures with warranty. So I don't do the long talking with the contractors. It's either you get it done or you get off site.
Yep. Good. You know, as we close off this segment about construction, let's talk about the cost of construction. One of the things that people are often surprised by is that, you know, if I build a 1,000 square feet in Pinewood, why does my construction price change when I want to build the same house in West Winds? Let's talk about the cost of construction for a moment. Either of you could take that.
So here's the thing. For a long time in the Bahamas, our market has been dictated based on what people tell you should pay for a home, not really and truly what you should be paying. So a lot of times when, let me give an example, a client of ours, Keith would know this client, they were quoted, I think, close to $300 per square feet, Keith, just because it was Southwest Ridge at that time. And I reviewed the plans. We sent the plans off to engineering. Engineering got back to me, and we came in, I think, at 150, and they could not believe it. And I said, that's just what it is. I'm not charging you because you live Southwest Ridge. I'm charging you because of the structure that you want. And it's a modern, beautiful, super modern structure. So that's what we're dealing with all the time. Even with contractors that we would have had interest with bringing on to our network, because they would have had some experience in steel structures. Just because our client is building Ocean Club does not mean that it's an $800 per square foot job. You're not providing the materials. The only thing you're doing is labor. We're bringing in the professionals with MEPs. So there's no way you should be charging them $800 per square feet when you're just doing the labor. Right. So that's something that we have to deal with. Whereas somebody who would live, let's say Winton or let's say Pinewood, that price significantly differs. And when you ask them, or when you tell these contractors, well, the only thing that needs to be done is, you know, for a cavity to be filled in, or let's say infrastructure is already in place. So why are you charging them these exorbitant pricing if there's not much that needs to be done? Right. But then again, I have to say that it goes back to who dictates the market when it comes to these materials. Because as you would have seen with the conventional system or conventional construction, I think the cost of construction or the materials actually increased 10 to 20% post opening of COVID-19, whereas our steel really did not shift. We just had a shift in our steel prices, but that's because obviously supply and demand at this point. But our threshold is nowhere compared to what you're paying for the conventional system. I mean, I think once again, it's just downright to greed and just taking advantage of people. The mere fact that you have some contractors see that the minute you get approved, then again, the pricing changed. And then they come in with these change orders. So you would have gotten quoted, let's say $135 per square foot. You ended up paying $200 per square foot for your house, just based on change orders. And that's where our instruction comes in. And we approve anything that wants to be requested by the contractor. No request is to be made directly from the contractor to the bank. That has to come directly through our project management firm. But that's something that you have to be careful with. And especially if you're a first-time builder, I urge you, do not do this by yourself. Do not. And also, I warn people all the time, just because your uncle, or your cousin or your friend is a contractor, Just because your cousin is a contractor, do not trust that. I have seen relationships broken, torn in half during the construction phase, just because somebody said, well, we're related, so I can build your structure at $90 per square foot. God, for goodness Christ, please do not fall for these tricks. Do not fall for it. I'm just praying, especially ladies, do not fall for it. But we're not here to basically steal the market. I am here to shake the market, and I'm here to basically put Bahamians in houses that they deserve. There's no way that you should be paying $250,000 for a house that looks like you're still stuck in the 1940s. That in itself stresses me out. But once again, it just goes back down to who's controlling the market, and that's why we're in the market to diversify it and to disrupt it right now.
Yeah, can I just say too, I agree with Donnell. The location has nothing to do with the cost. And I always tell this to clients, I tell it to everybody, your plan dictates what you pay, okay, not your location. A lot of times we get in a situation simply because it's Vinton or Westridge or wherever, but we fall in a fluent area, a per square footage price increases. I don't like per square footage prices simply because it's a lazy way for a contractor to do work. There's something called a material takeoff. You look at the time, right? You look at the plan, what the plan called for, the material takeoff, the labor component of that. Then you have to look at the site. So you don't look at the site. That's where you end up with all these change orders down the road, because when you start looking at footing, whether there are cavities or all these other stuff, that's when you start talking about, oh, I didn't know this and I didn't know that, and that start to create all these issues. A plan with a schedule dictates the cost of construction, plain and simple. And you avoid problems by having the necessary contract with specification as to what type of tires, where the tires are supposed to go, and all of that stuff. The only difference you change is where you consult the client on color. Now, as it relates to construction costs, and I'll end with this, since the pandemic, construction materials continually go up because you're finding things like lumber mills in the United States are not able to produce. Right now, some of the mills have closed. So right now, you're on the market globally. Well, this part of the world, you have less than a third of what was normally produced to the market on the market. So construction cost is going to be a bit of a challenge in the next couple of months until things settle back down. And so you will have some costs as it relates to materials. That has nothing to do with the labor component. Whether you pay for lumber, one price or the other has nothing to do with the material, with the labor component of it. So here again, the location has nothing to do with costing of construction.
And just to piggyback off of that, that's why we have a design meeting. So right after your architectures, you come into our office, you sit down with us, we design your entire house. The kind, once again, the kind of tiles you want, how thick you want your tiles, the kind of cabinetry, the finishes, do you want copper, do you want brass, things of that nature. So it's no excuse when the contractor comes back on site and they talk about, well, you changed your tiles. No, they actually sat in a design meeting with us. They got what they landed. You're just here to install it. So the excuses, we mitigate against all of that. Because once again, I don't ever want to be in a position where someone takes advantage of me, so I'll never allow that to happen to one of our clients. And before that happens, I always say, either you get the job done or you get off my site.
Good. Okay. All right. We so appreciate your contribution. I see such raving reviews in the chat about Mober's Instagram and the plans and the homes on their IG. A lot of people really appreciate you guys' contribution, and I thank you for that as well. Renat, as we go into your segment, do we want to reset the room one more time before we close? And again, guys, we'll get you out of here by 1 o'clock for sure. So, Bernard, if you're still with me, you're on. There you go.
Matt, I do apologize. I was just updating the Clubhouse persons on what we've been discussing, sharing the websites and the phone contacts. So you want to pose a question again for me?
Yeah, so I was asking you to do the same thing. Just go ahead and reset the clubhouse room if you hadn't done that in the last few minutes, and then we'll go into your segment.
All right, so I just did that. Just
Okay.
reset the room. I gave the number and as well as the website for more there for persons to reach out to. Reminded them that this is every Wednesday at 11. Matt Sweeting is our host today. And on the Zoom platform, there are over 70 persons listening. I'm trying to answer as much questions as I can, Matt, in that chat. And then obviously the person on Clubhouse, I've asked them to save their questions for the end because obviously there's valuable information coming up. So go ahead.
Yeah, good. Okay. And so just again, we covered a couple of things here that I want you to take note of. If you want to get this recording after we're completed with this meeting, go ahead and register now at oneoak242.com. We'll also post all of our panelists' contacts so that you could be able to reach out to them directly. And so, but we need you to register at oneoak242.com. If you are looking to apply for the government's upscale community, go to majorkey.com. That is majorcay.com. And now we're going to move into the last two segments. We want to talk about legal. We want to talk about real estate that we haven't touched on in as greater detail. And so let's talk to Renard, who will lead the session on. Renard, we all watched the announcement. We saw the debate just Monday from the Prime Minister. What are the next steps now to us getting this done, out of Parliament, approved? Talk us through what happened from a, I call it a political perspective, but maybe that's the wrong wording.
No, that's correct wording. And so the next step is the House of Assembly would have passed the resolution, and that then comes to us tomorrow morning in the Senate. The AG will open the debate. I will then have to second the resolution and speak to it. So I'll raise all the concerns that were just addressed once we're done in that Senate chat group and in the government chat group with the Prime Minister, etc., and make sure we are addressing all of the concerns that everybody has today publicly in the Senate tomorrow. Once we pass that resolution in the Senate tomorrow, the next step will be everything will go over to the Governor General. That will be done by Friday. That's signed off on. Nothing that we do in Parliament is final until it's sent over to the Governor General, who then signs off on that. After that is done, you will have the conveyance done from the Treasurer to the Crown, because the land that we're discussing right now, this 83 acres, is land that's in the remit of the Treasurer. So what the Prime Minister is proposing is take this land from the Treasurer, give it over to the Crown land, and then the government is able to take this Crown land, 83 acres, and chop it up into these 250 lots with a park, with pool, tennis court, clubhouse, walking trails. And once that is done, the process starts of persons applying. The amenities begin. The road will begin to be paved, the place is cut up, etc. Persons are going online at dohbahamas.com, which will be the Department of Housing. So www.dohbahamas.com will be the site everybody will go to. You will put in your completed application online, and there's a whole committee who will then vet and approve to make sure you are a first-time homeowner. You would have to provide your passport to show that you are a Bahamian citizen, to confirm that. They may ask you to prove your residency, that you are living in the Bahamas and not abroad, which probably can be done via passport pages, etc., because not everybody has utility bills in their name based on where you live. It may be you providing a job letter, but it'll be something to verify that you are a resident, that you are a Bahamian citizen, you are 45 years or under, and first-time homeowner. And then after you would have been approved, a Crown grant will be given by the Office of the Attorney General to each of those 250 property owners now. So for those of us in my profession as attorneys will not make $1 from this, because again, when we go back to why, the government is trying to find every possible way to save homeowners money. So my profession, attorneys won't be making $1. You won't be hiring an attorney to charge you 2.5% on the conveyance for this process. There'll be no need. The government will have the Attorney General's office prepare all the Crown grants that will be given to you. So lawyers are out of the picture, saving those legal fees. Then there's the stamp duty. You will not be paying stamp duty on the land. There's the real property tax. For 2 years, you won't be charged any real property tax. There is the duty, import duty exemption on all your building materials. So when you hear Movair architects speak about the cost of construction and the equipment coming in, I would like for us to have a conversation after this and before we meet in the Senate tomorrow to ensure that those materials that you need to bring in to construct these homes for these Bahamians is brought in duty free. Because, you know, what we need to fine tune in the legislation and the law is whether or not it's when, let's say, Miss Sweeting, who's on the call, if Miss Sweeting is buying her building materials, that's duty free. But if she's going through you to construct and your company's bringing in the materials for her, how do we ensure that she gets the benefit of that duty? So if the material is going to cost you $100,000 to bring in, or it's $100,000, we don't need Movair to be paying duty on that, because then that cost is passed on to the Sweeting. We want to take the duty off that. So cost goes down by 45% right there. All right, so the legal fees cost is off the table. The duty is off the table. And then, like I said, there's no real property tax for 2 years. Matt, the requirement is that construction is done within 2 years. All right, for the other subdivisions that the government is doing, the requirement is that you at least put a foundation down in 2 years. But for this development, the government doesn't want, for any number of reasons, construction going on for 10 years, nor does the government want to take forever for persons who are in the construction field, the architects, the landscapers, the painters, to be waiting for 10 years to reap the benefits of this project. So with a 2-year cap, it then means architects, construction workers, landscapers, painters, interior decorators, for the next 2 years, business is going to be booming as you construct 250 homes, all right? So that's the process, Matt. Comes to the Senate tomorrow. After the Senate, goes to the Governor General. The conveyance will be done from the treasurer over to the Crown. Application process begins by August. OHBahamas.com is the site. And then those persons, once approved, will be given a Crown grant by the Office of the Attorney General. I hope that helps.
Yep. And I see Ray's question. I see Valentino's question. Please hold those questions for just a moment. We'll ask Renard the rest of the questions, then we'll go into question and answer thereafter. Renard, let's talk about, generally speaking, in brief, I think most people know what an attorney actually does for a buyer.
All right, so I'm dealing with any number of real estate transactions right now. And without giving any names, one particular client will come to me and say, Renard, I see a piece of property that's off Carmichael Road. It's a duplex lot. It's $110,000. And could you do the paperwork to get us to the agreement of sale stage? Then agreement of sale is signed. They will then take that document into a lending institution, the bank. The bank will then write to the law firm with instructions to go ahead and prepare a first demand legal mortgage over this parcel of land. We then prepare that mortgage, have a title search done. Once the mortgage goes into the bank then comes back, because we have to provide a report on title for the lending institution. The bank comes back, cuts the check for the law firm's legal fees, a check for stamp duty recording, the check for the vendors, etc. You don't have all of that to deal with this particular development. But if somebody's coming to me who's buying property outside of the development, that's what a lawyer has to do. And then the conveyance is executed from the vendor to the purchaser. We have that once it's sent to the law firm. If I will represent you as the purchaser's attorney, we would record that conveyance, goes off to the registry. You come back, the recorded conveyance is then sent along with the recorded mortgage to the lending institution. The bank would hold on to that document until you've paid off the bank in your 15 or 30-year mortgage. And once you've paid off the bank, the law firm will then request of the bank to do a deed of satisfaction, which then releases the conveyance to you and say that you've paid off the bank in full. And again, all of that is irrelevant with respect to this particular development, because you are going to be given a Crown grant. It doesn't get any better than that. And when it comes to those in land law, a Crown grant is the best title you can get. This land that is coming from the government is given directly from the government to you, and you're not going through somebody who may have sold this property 3, 4, 5, 6 times and never told you, or somebody who's selling a piece of property notwithstanding the fact that they went through a divorce and the judge in the divorce told them the property was to be sold and the proceeds split, and there's just endless confusion. So I say all that to say that's the process for us as lawyers, Matt, but you're not going to have that problem with this development for the 250 lots.
Yeah, yeah. We've had independent conversations with a number of the panelists here about where we see a real opportunity for someone who is a budding or aspiring investor is for someone to maybe make an investment, apply for one of these lots with the intention of reselling units of a duplex. And I think that was one of the recent updates in the debate. The Prime Minister is saying, even though these lots would traditionally be zoned as triplex lots based on the square footage that they have, they're going to limit the maximum use of the property to duplex. And so you could build 2 units on the property, but you could potentially, based on what, this is the same model that Jerome Franks talked about earlier, and it has considerable value. If this development is going to be comparable to a community that Jerome has built in, Jerome's lot, the lots in that community would range somewhere to the tune of about 140,000. And so if that means that you could now get a similar size lot, the lot would be bigger than Jerome's lot, and you could build the same building that he built, imagine now the profit potential that you might have. And so this team here is here to assist you if that's your objective in doing just that. And the income potential is remarkable. Units in that area or condos in that area, and you might want to consider doing something very similar to what Jerome has done. Jerome sold his last unit somewhere to the tune of just shy of about 400,000. I don't want to call them on pocket, but it's a pretty nice take. And so he's about to do this again, duplicate the same model, build 2 units, sell them both. And so we want to show people who are interested on how to do that. So then that brings up the question,
Matt,
Renard. Go ahead.
Before you even move on, let me share this. Obviously, all of us who are in the real estate conveyancing field, we've been familiar with each other for well over a decade. Without calling a name, I have a colleague who's a real estate agent, become developer, only builds townhouses and condos, and then rents them out to embassies. And an embassy will pay you $8,000 to $10,000 per month to rent a unit. So you can go and acquire this duplex townhouse lot for $50,000, go through Moivare Architects to build a substantially modern home, and then turn around and collect $8,000 to $10,000 a month from your neighbor right next door into your unit because you built this duplex or townhouse, raking in $8,000 to $10,000 a month. And within 1 year, you've paid off, what you would have borrowed. I am a proponent of having passive income, a second source of income. I would not, and I'm right now where I live right now, I'm on a property with 5 rental units, and I'm living in one of the units, and there's just money coming in. And I think that's why we're doing this, Matt. That's the why, to encourage other Bahamians to see real estate as an investment. God isn't making any more land. No more. That's it. What you see here, that's it. God ain't making no more. So seize the opportunity between now and summer. Get with a mortgage planner, get with a financial planner, get with more of the architects, get with Matt, etc., and find out how can you reap the rewards of this project. Because while this is 250 lots, there's no guarantee that there's going to be another one. So rather than you wait around and see, let's see what they do in 2 years or 3 years. Seize the opportunity. Reach out to endless companies are in this country who are leasing places. They don't want the headache of buying a house for their staff. They prefer you have the headache of the insurance and the landscaping, and all they want to know is their diplomat or their president, vice president, manager is living in a comfortable home, and they will pay you $8,000 to $10,000 a month for that place. So Matt, this is the way to go.
Absolutely. And you'd be surprised to see, these financial institutions. We have a number of private banks here. And these people, they even grin and teach to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $15,000 a month on a rental. You would be surprised. The question I had, if we're talking about potentially selling units that might be attached or detached, you need to go through something, and Renard, correct me if I'm wrong, condominiumization is what they call it. Tell us about that process. I've heard that it is an expensive ordeal. Tell us about that.
It is an expensive ordeal, but for those of us who think investment, you would factor in if I have to spend out $5,000 to condominize a property, knowing that I can sell this thing for 350 to $450,000 with an understanding that this person is going to pay condo association fees right back to me, where you're paying me $300 to $5 a month to maintain the property, for the landscaping, for the garbage collection, for the painting, to making sure the structure is insured. I always believe it's a good investment. So understand now, you would have bought a piece of property for 50 grand. You would have built a structure with Moive Architects, let's say for another 150 grand, 200 grand. You now have 2 buildings on this thing, and then you sell one of these condos for $350,000 to somebody, who then turn around and pays you every month 300, some places $250 a month, to cut the grass for them, to make sure the garbage is collected, to paint the structure every month. So you're just making money over and over and over. You would have just sent $50,000 to work for you. 50 grand, go and make me 350 grand in the next 6 to 9 months in this construction. And then every month, even though I got that person's 350 grand, let me collect another $300 a month to cut the grass for them and to make sure the garbage is collected. So you may pay a firm $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get your condominium up and running, your legal documents. But trust me, the money just keeps coming in, and that's why we're doing this, becoming a real estate investor. Want to share this knowledge and help people out.
Yeah. So, Renard, my last question for you is: you mentioned earlier people could buy with a group. It's not for singles. It's not just for married people. I can buy with my sister, my cousin, my family member, my friend. How do I do that?
Right. So when the application process comes out, which again, I suspect, I would say August, if it happens sooner, all the better, but it then gives everybody listening and everybody interested time to get their financial planning in place, to start meeting with Moive to find out what's going to cost to construct the home, etc. But when you do get to the application process, you and your brother, you and your sister, you and your siblings, you and a parent, you and a friend, it means now putting on the application the 2 or 3 persons that you're putting down as the persons you want this deed, this crown grant to. There's somebody in the Zoom chat that asks, what are the pros and cons of that? And I will put it this way for us in law. The biggest concern in law is whether you're doing this as joint tenants or tenants in common. Joint tenants or tenants in common. Joint tenants meaning that, hey, if it's me and my 2 brothers that, and God forbid, in another 25, 50 years I pass, it then means that the property will go then to the remaining siblings. I would have nothing to leave to my children and my wife because we bought as joint tenants. When one of us dies, the property passes over absolutely to the remainder. When the second brother dies, he doesn't leave anything to his children. It goes to the remaining sibling. That's the joint tenancy. The tenants in common would then be when we're buying it as siblings or friends or partners, and then each of us has an equal interest in the property. So that's the first legal concern if you're buying this as siblings, etc. Whether you're going to do this as, you want a legal document to reflect joint tenants or tenants in common. That's on the legal. On the financial side is you want to make sure whoever it is that you're partnering with to do this, the sibling, whoever, has an understanding that, listen, either we're doing the duplex, where we're going to go to Moive to build this duplex or these 2 townhouses, and then the mortgage every month, which is going to be $2 grand a month, each of us is responsible for paying our $1,000. But you have to plan ahead, because what we saw with this pandemic is, you don't just plan financially for a rainy day anymore. You plan for a pandemic. So what happens if one of your siblings loses their job in 3-4 years? Then how does it impact on you with the mortgage when you've only been contributing $1,000 and they're responsible for the other $1,000? So, things like that you want to consider when you start and plan ahead, hence the financial planning, and getting lower interest rates and monetizing the whole investment, seeing it as an investment. As opposed to you paying $800 a month or $2 grand for a home, you and your sibling could cut your cost down to $1,000 each, which is basically you paying rent, but eventually you'll own this place. So it can be done for an individual, for a couple, for siblings, for partners, whatever it may be. The only requirement is that the applicants be under 46 years old, so 45 and under, Bahamian and residents. Somebody asks, what if then you know, it's 3 siblings. 2 are residents of the Bahamas and 1 is going off to school. I will raise that issue in the Senate tomorrow with the Attorney General of the government to clarify. I can't see the reason why we should exclude those siblings because someone is going off to school and say they're not resident, because you going off to school doesn't stop your residency in the Bahamas. You're going up temporary for education. It's like you go for a visit somewhere. You wouldn't have ended your residency. So all of those things we can fine tune and address in Parliament tomorrow so that the public has certainty on the way forward. While you wait for certainty on the way forward, all I can say to all of you, and I would encourage you to do, is reach out to a financial planner, get your architectural drawings, costs, etc., and position yourself. Be positioned to seize the moment when the moment makes itself available. All right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Renard, thank you so much for your contribution. I could not have done this without you. Really, really appreciate your help here and appreciate you moderating this Clubhouse room. I just jumped in and I see we got a couple of people still in here. And so guys in Clubhouse and guys on Zoom, we're about to go into full question and answer. We're going to get through them very, very quickly. And so if you had a question on Clubhouse, I'll go ahead and raise your hand or indicate that you have a question, and I'll start to address some of the questions we have here. Valentino, I see you. And so let's start with Ava. Ava asks, is there a timeline? I don't know what happened. Let me see here. I wonder if that's coming from Clubhouse. Okay, good.
You should be fine. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Is there a timeline on how long infrastructure will take to be completed? Renard, yes and no. Has he commented on this? So,
Matt, okay. All right, so realistically, I'm looking at the Carmichael subdivision right now that began, ribbon cutting was in November. I checked and I did a drive by there, must have been 2 weeks ago. Roads have been raised, have not been paved as yet. I would realistically say infrastructure could take anywhere from 3 to 4 months once this conveyance is done. So that's your all of May, all of June, all of July, hence the reason why I think the Prime Minister is saying by the end of summer, which will be August. So I don't think the intention is to start conveying to persons before everything is in place, because your time will start to run. You see, so the moment you receive that conveyance, your 2 years will start to run, and you don't want time running against people. And then the roads haven't been put in place, the lampposts haven't been put in place. So the intention is, while the approval process may start in August, the government is going to go ahead and give you a Crown grant for time to run against you without that conveyance, etc., and any money exchanging hands until that road and the light poles, etc., are in place. So honestly, from my experience, I would say you're looking at the end of July for those lampposts to be in place, the roads cut, etc. And again, I can only encourage everyone to position themselves financially to be in that position to apply once the applications open on in August.
what are your estimations on Prospect Ridge development, Renard?
I'm on mute on Zoom. Okay, my estimations. Actually, I had reason to go through there by Balmoral in the last few weeks. And any of us who've driven through the area, you know, the homes and properties in that area are high value. Condos, townhomes, residential lots. You're talking about an area with properties right now ranging from $150,000 to $300,000-$400,000. So obviously you're living or moving into an area that already has a great value, a great quality of life. And I think one of the discussions before was, you know, how do the average Bahamian get to the point where they can live in a community where they feel safe, a gated community with a clubhouse, with a walking trail, with pools and tennis court. That's a whole improvement in your quality of life. How can we do that affordably? And I think the location is ideal. You're not too far from the beach. You're not too far from the airport. The highways are right there for you to jump onto if you need to get east west, south, etc. So the location is great, but you're also in a community with, you know, the middle class going, you know, to upper middle class. And I think it has great potential. It's a great move. And, you know, I've encouraged everybody I know, family, friends, etc., to prepare themselves, position themselves for once the application process opens to apply, be one of the 250. I know I've heard in the media, and I'm going to call any names, that someone saying 250 is so little. But all I can say to those persons and anybody who's seen the negative is I only see positive. I don't see problems. I see solutions. And I think if you can get 250 families into a safe, comfortable environment with tennis courts, swimming pools, clubhouse, in an environment like that, I think it's a great start. And it has to be the trend moving forward, as opposed to governments building low-cost homes that you move in and in 3 months, you know, the contractors have roofs leaking and walls cracking and tiles popping up throughout the night. You think someone's firing off gunshots. You have the control to build what you want, how you want. So I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I totally agree. Appreciate the question, Ava. Ravano, I think we addressed your question about prospective date when applications will open. I think they're proposing summer for that. Joash Boyd, thank you for joining. And your question, if anyone wanted to construct a duplex in an upscale community, would one be required to live in one of the units, or can it be constructed solely for investment purposes? Yeah, we feel pretty confident that you don't need to live in it. Renard, what do you think?
There's absolutely no requirement that you have to live there.
Yeah.
It just says for you to get it, you have to be a Bahamian resident. You can bill it and decide, I'm staying right in my parents' house and I'm going to rent this thing up to them and collect $8,000 to $10,000 a month while I live with my parents.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So the government isn't asking you by law to move there. The government is just saying, I'm going to give you an opportunity to own this. Do with it as you wish. Whether you want to live there, rent it, sell it, that's your concern. But we're going to make sure put the land in the hands of Bahamians. I heard someone the other day in a room, in another room, basically say they get pissed off riding around this country and seeing crown land just sitting there, as opposed to being developed by Bahamians. And that's what this is about. Go and develop it. Do what you want. If you want to live there, live there. If you want to lease it, rent it, sell it, go right ahead. But you don't have to live there.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Joash, for your question. Mr. Henfield, you mentioned business partners can qualify. My question is, do both partners have to be residents in the Bahamas? I think he did address that. Delana, let me know if he needed to provide more clarity around that. Ava asks, if you have a property in your name with a structure on it and paid stamp duty on the conveyance mortgage, would you be considered a first-time homeowner in this instance? And I think you did answer that, Renard. Yeah.
I am going to have the AG speak to it in the morning as well in the Senate. So we give clarity on every possible scenario, because like I shared with you, and I guess persons will hear this, 1 o'clock in the morning, Matt and I were on doing our research and prepping. And like I shared with you something this morning, Matt, whenever you speak, there's people with so many walks of life. There are people who may have inherited. There are people who may have married somebody who already had a house. Do they apply? Can they qualify? There may be people who, you know, someone lives in NASA, someone's off of school. So all of those scenarios, I'm going to ask that we address clearly from the Attorney General tomorrow, who will be the person responsible for giving you the Crown grant in your hand, the ownership documents. I'll have him speak to that in the morning in the Senate.
Good. Delana Tucker asked a question that we covered about maybe one of the residents not living in the country. We'll get some more clarity on this as well. How does a personal contractor charge? Is it based on plans already drafted by the government or his personal pricing? I think Nikita answered this question. The contractor's prices should be based on the plans. This is done after a review of the plans with careful review or the finished schedules and required materials. Will there be a list of, Delana asks again, great questions, Delana, thank you so much. Will there be a list of mandated contractors to choose from, or can the residents of the community choose their own? It's the latter. The residents of the community can choose their own. Advantages and disadvantages of a co-applicant. Keith or Nathaniel, you want to take this question? So why would you apply with someone else? What benefit is that to me?
I could help with that. With most financial institutions, your co-applicant has to be your significant other if you want to have a minimal down payment. Not saying you can't sign with a sibling, but if you do sign with a sibling, a parent, brother, sister, sibling, of course, you're looking at probably a 20% down payment.
Interesting. Okay.
With your,
So what would the benefit though? So that's a potential disadvantage. What would be the benefit of doing it?
what that other person's income is, you might qualify for more. That could be one advantage. Having that additional income along with yours can qualify you for a larger amount. Usually that would be the most beneficial thing about it.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Demetrius Bastian says that Donnell is a godsend. There's no consumer protection that is a competitive advantage. That is a competitive advantage. David Barry, who I got to connect with on LinkedIn, and David Barry has a very interesting story. David, very ambitious young person, bought this lot in a Coral Harbor gated community, and didn't take into consideration, and the blog that we have on majorkey.com tells about a story about the mistakes he made in his youth, where he was ambitious enough to purchase this lot, but didn't take into consideration how much it would take to construct on this lot. And while he had the qualification to buy, he didn't have the qualification to build. And he ended up being stuck with that lot for somewhere to the tune of about 15 years, I think it is, if I remember correctly, David. And so, very interesting story. Go ahead and read that on majorkey.com. David, thanks for your question. His statement, he says, I'm sold on the fact that your company prices are based on structure, not area. He's experienced this. Nikita says this is a spectacular presentation. Thank you, Nikita, the Cash Queen. Homes on IG are beautiful. IG page is posted there. Let me get to some other questions. Okay, Ray asks a question: what is the minimum amount persons will need to demonstrate that they pre-qualify to be considered or eligible for the purchase of a lot? The PM did mention this in his announcement, that this person needs to have about a $300,000 line of credit. Is that correct, Renard? Is that what he did say?
Could you go again, Matt? Sorry, I was trying to take a question from Clubhouse. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. The question is about how much credit the person needs to have to qualify. I think the PM in his announcement noted that the person needs to have somewhere to the tune of about $300,000 pre-approval to be qualified. Yes? Okay,
I'm not sure, Matt. I'll double check, but I'm not sure. I don't remember that.
And so some of the communication that they've produced, Ray, indicates that they want the person to have this level of qualification. One of the things, Renard, that you can bring up, and I want Nathaniel and Keith to speak to this, one of the requirements in the application is that they want a letter of pre-approval from the financial institution. But Keith and I have been having this discussion that few, if any, are producing this letter of qualification. You can't go to many, and Keith, let us know, is there anyone that is producing a letter of qualification for a client to submit with this application?
I mean, you might be able to convince somebody to say you've been pre-qualified. You're not going to get anybody to say you've been pre-approved because your application still has to be vetted. They still have to check your credit, check your job. They still have to, when they do a title search, they might find there's a judgment against you. So, all of that can cause you not to get approved. So most sides they issue that letter because basically it really doesn't hold water. It's not a guarantee you're going to get the financing.
Understood. Once the application is completed, how long is the process to receive the Crown grant? Renard?
All right, so again, there is absolutely nobody that has been able to apply as yet. Nobody has been approved. There's no wait list because the applications will not go live until August, I think it is. Once you do go live, the committee, I understand, should be able to make that decision in a matter of days to weeks. So let's say we go live August 1st. It then means that by September 1st, persons should have been advised that they are approved. the Crown grant by the Office of the Attorney General would have already been drafted, and it's just simply to put in the names of the persons and print. It's what we call it a precedent document. All we're changing is the name and the lot number. Nothing else. The restrictions would be set for the duplex lots. The restrictions would be set for the residential lot. It would simply just be a matter of plugging in the name, 1, 2, 3 persons who are getting the Crown grant and their lot number. So I would say by the end of September, those 250 persons should know that they have this land and they can proceed.
Our turn press asks as well, if applying jointly, would it matter if one applicant is not a first-time home owner and the other is?
Again, while I could speak legally to it, I would just defer to the Attorney General, who I'll speak to after this call, and ask him in the opening remarks when he and I speak first in the Parliament tomorrow, if we can, well, he can lead off with that clarifying if you have a situation where a husband and wife, for instance, and the husband has a home that he acquired 5 years ago, doesn't matter, they got married and now the wife is applying. There should be no reason why the wife can't apply. She doesn't own a home. And then how does it impact her? Because it's her application, but with her husband on the mortgage, they're able to qualify for more. So all that we'll need to fine tune, and they shall be able to clarify and speak clearly to in the morning at 10 when the Senate starts.
Good. HOA fees about this community. I think it's too early to tell, May. Thanks for your question. They haven't said anything about that yet, but we reason that it'll be multiple hundreds. They want to keep it affordable, but the grounds will need the maintenance. And so it is reasonable that it'll be multiple hundreds. Okay, Valentino put it in the chat. All right, here are his questions. Let me see, I'm not 20%. Oh, okay. I think, is that 20% of the 50,000 or 20% of the entire mortgage amount? Delana, clarify your question for me. Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. If any panelists understand that question that Delana is asking, we could know. Delana, let me know in the chat, and then I'll re-ask the question. Here's Valentino's question. The standard of development by the government has been a concern, valid. They have marketed it as a high-end development, but the concern is the concern is the government ability to meet a Charlottesville, Westland, Venetian type standard. Can they do it? I think this is still speculative. I've commented that we have the government, not that I know of, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, they have no track record of having done this before. This will be the first ever that I know of. And so, I don't know, Renard, what do you think?
Again, because I just don't know how to live in negativity or problem oriented. I'm always looking at the positive and solutions. Look at right now, the government is getting ready to launch a family island cruise industry, home port cruises in this country for the first time. It's never been done before, but it's being done. And as of Monday of next week, we will rule out exactly how Bahamians can benefit from it. I think sometimes when we as citizens and the public, we ask for things to be done. A lot of times we propose things, ask for things, and we ourselves have no idea how it can work exactly. When I was sworn in 2017, I didn't become any wiser because I was sworn in. I don't know any government official who became wiser simply because they were sworn in. But we require the public, the private sector, lending institutions, architects, contractors to tell us how best to do this. Bahamians want affordable housing. An Affordable Homes Act was passed. The government acquires land, cuts it up and makes it available, and then says to the people, you know, we believe in the past, governments getting in the nitty gritty has been to your disadvantage. Us determining who the contractors will be, us determining how the structure will look, the size of your room, the size of your yard, all that stuff, the government is now saying, let us pass the policy, put the policy in place, and then get the hell out of the way and allow the private sector, the architects, the mortgage brokers, the financial planners, and you, the public and the banks, to go ahead and move forward with this home how you want it. I think that's actually a good thing. for this project that the government isn't telling you what size to build, who you must use to build, which design you must use. The government is simply saying, we've cut it up, go ahead, you choose your design. We all who are on this call and everybody listening, we're impressed with Moive Architects. We went to the website, we're impressed. And I'm not offended when she speaks of the looking your home looking like it's something out of the 1940s. I agree with that. We want modern, strong structures that are cheaper to build, that can be built faster. And I think that is the best way to go, where the government just gives you the land and says, go and do your thing to the standard that you like. But the only standard we're asking is that this is an upscale community: pool, tennis court, clubhouse, gated, garbage kept inside your house, brought out every Saturday morning by 9 a.m. to be picked up by the truck at 11 a.m., put back in your garage at 12 o'clock. And there are some restrictions. You can't have your dog roam in the neighborhood. Ain't gonna be no pot cake through here. It'll be picked up, etc. Just put the policy in place and then get out of the way. So I think this is actually a good thing that the government hasn't done it before. I'm not concerned about it. I'm thinking this is the way that the government should have been going a long time ago. And that is here. Let's seize the moment and shape it. Let us shape it. And I think what we're doing on this call right now, Matt, is shaping, what needs to be done. And I will take the concerns and the issues raised to the right place thereafter. And by tomorrow, it'll be addressed in Parliament.
Right, right. And Nikita's making some comments about this. Nikita, I'll call on you in a moment to share those publicly. Building restrictions. I don't think there are going to be any specific restrictions outside of what housing has in place already. The government is putting some mitigating strategies in place to ensure that they maintain a standard. And so I think, this is one of the things I commented in the article was that, listen, 300,000 line of credit eliminates a considerable amount of people already. And so that to a degree speaks to the standard of building that you'll have there. But he's also noted that there are going to be a number of restrictive covenants included that talks about garbage maintenance, it talks about no work on property, and some other things like that. And so I think these ideas that he is thinking to put in place, and still in consultation with his committee, will continue to work towards this maintaining this idea. It's notable, or it is of value, that the Prime Minister does have a large multifamily development along that street. So he, to a degree, has a vested interest in that area. How will they monitor the 2-year construction requirement? I think, again, it's too early to tell how they'll do that. Strategies to boost economic growth in a 2-year period significantly. However, we see many developments, condos, who have problems managing such requirements. I could agree with that. And it'll likely be an administrative nightmare for them as well. But again, we do see the pros and the cons of doing that. The pros is that it maintains the value of the community. You don't have a home that's dilapidated and grown up. The cons of that is that it eliminates a large part of that demographic that they're looking to reach. Number 5 talks about joint purchases. Does this mean first-time homeowner qualification is absorbed by all, or just one of the 2 of 3 eligible in the group? Keith, you want to take that?
Hey, Matt, can you repeat that for me again?
Yeah. So he's talking about joint purchases. Does this mean the first-time homeowner qualification is absorbed? Valentino, go ahead and unmute so we can bring clarity to this question. When you say absorbed, go ahead, ask the question.
So what I mean, as Bernard was speaking earlier, if say there were 3 siblings who are all qualified for a first-time home buyer, would their first-time home buyer status, each, the 3 of them, be absorbed in this one purchase, or will it just be one of the group? That was the question.
It would definitely be a 3.
It'll be three.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If S. King, thanks for your question. Valentino, appreciate those great questions. S. King asked the question: if a married couple applies, must both partners be Bahamian? If so, would you recommend the Bahamian apply separately?
I would recommend at this point in time that the Bahamian apply. Just as a lawyer, you already know the International Persons Landholding Act, all that comes into play, which needs approval. I would go definitely with the route of whichever spouse is Bahamian, had that person apply. When the Crown grant is granted in your name, once you own the land, you can go right ahead the next day and do a conveyance over to you and your spouse. Okay.
Okay. Delana clarifies her question. She asked earlier, someone mentioned that if qualifying as siblings, that a con would be having to come up with 20% down payment. I am asking, is this 20% of the 50,000 or 20% of the entire mortgage amount? Yeah. And I think it's the latter, a key.
Yes, it is the latter. Yeah, the reason, and people might ask, well, that's not fair, but the reason for it is that, you know, you and your brother want to buy this property and build a home or even a duplex. You're single right now, but, you know, in 10 years, you might be married, you might have a family, you need a bigger place. So you move out, but yet the reason you got the mortgage is both of you qualified together to get this mortgage. If one income leaves, then that's going to be more risk to the bank. That's why they ask for a higher down payment when it's
right.
Siblings doing something like that together. The entire amount that you're trying.
Keith, your reception's a bit bad. So thank you for your answer there. And then the last question we have here is statement. Thanks, May, for your contribution. May believes or thinks there needs to be some level of consistency in the community, design-wise. You can't have one house shingle, next steel roof, and then the next Spanish tiles. I don't know, May. I mean, again, I think we're going to get more clarity on this, but if you go right on Skyline, I think you will find this same thing happening. Architectural shingles, Spanish roof, and then a steel roof. And I don't think that hurts the community per se. Nikita, why don't we have your thoughts here on this? And then you could talk about you had a service lot comment earlier. In short, Nikita, you still with us? If Nikita's unavailable, Donnell, why don't you give us your thoughts here?
I don't think necessarily.
Sorry, Matt.
Oh, okay.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, Donald, you back up.
Yeah, I don't think when it comes to, let's say, the roofing, it would necessarily mitigate between what the community would look like. However, when it comes to steel, or what we would call the standing seam roof, that's more of a modern roofing mechanism as opposed to the regular asphalt shingles or the Spanish tile look or the Tuscan look that we would call that. I think it has more to do with the exterior ramifications of the home. So let's say a house that more so has the regular windows as opposed to the hurricane impact windows, or a house that has crown moldings and the next doesn't have the crown moldings. Things like that can definitely depict how the community is going to look if it's going to be a combination. And the best example I would give of that is what's the area called? West Winds, I think. Yeah, I think West Wind's the name. So as you drive through West Winds, you'd see that it's not consistent with the looks. You have some houses that look super modern, some houses that look modern, and then you have the traditional look. I think I'm just real curious to see what the restrictive covenant will say. And I know that they did say that there are going to be 10 architectural designs to choose from. And that's one thing that I'm very concerned about, as opposed to those architectural designs, because if they're not allowing people to select, let's say, from their own architect or bring in their own plans, what plans are you telling people to build with? But, you know, letting people choose from 10 does provide consistency, but what kind of consistency? Is it that traditional consistency or moving along the lines of more modern consistency?
Right, right. Yeah.
Okay, Matt,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Nikita.
I think Donald hit the nail on the head, but a lot of it had to do with how the subdivision is designed and what is required in terms of the look of the houses or the buildings. In some development, you would find, like in Grand Bahama, for example, when we did a subdivision there, asphalt shingled roof was not a part of the look that they were going for. So you had to choose between the standing seam or the tile look. So that's really a part of what government will have to make a decision on in terms of designing of the look of that particular area. I also took note that Renard made note or someone made note of whether this type of development of government has done this type of development in the past. This concept of the service lots is not a new concept. I think it's a very good concept. I think this whole development is a good idea. But the service loss has been done. A good example of this is Pride Tree, right off Tony William down the highway. As you go over the back of it, you will find that persons purchased service lots there and built duplexes and townhouses and all other stuff and rented it out. And also in terms of a gated community, during my time at the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation, we did a semi-gated community in the Eastern District of New Providence, an area called John Claridge, where some homes were done. And again, using the same concept where young professionals were able to purchase these homes, more of a modern style home, open concept, not using the traditional low-cost home look. And also planned in that development are some townhouses and all the rest of that, where garbage cans are not a part of you keep those in your yard on Thursday. I think on Monday, someone comes and collect. You have to bring your trash out like they do in the States. Roll you thing them out to the road and it's collected in the garbage bags, taken in and all the rest of that. So there is a model on a much smaller scale, but some of these things have been done. And I'm very happy to see that we're moving in that direction in terms of affordable homes from government. We also talk about who's going to manage these things. Well, all of the government subdivisions have covenants where people are not supposed to do a lot of things that they're doing. It's just that the policing of it that the Department of Housing is responsible for, nobody takes the time to go and stop people because you cannot, according to the covenants, do certain things in these, and none of the government subdivision yet they are allowed to do it. And I'm not saying it's going to happen in this development. I'm just hoping that as we move forward in these affordable homes, that the covenants and the things that people are not supposed to do, that they are not allowed to do, and that will help to maintain the value of these developments.
Right. Okay. Well, we so appreciate the contribution of all the panelists here. Really thank you for your contributions here, guys. You know, in closing, when I think about this event, and I sit here not only as your moderator and host, but also as an attendee as well. And when I think about the opportunity here, I really see huge opportunity for someone that says, "Hey, listen, I'm fully employed elsewhere. There's very little opportunity for me to invest or create alternative streams of income." And so this is a great opportunity for you. Whether it be this community or elsewhere, the opportunity in real estate is rich, and pun is intended there. And so if you want more information, let's get connected. Let's connect on social with all of the panelists here. Connect with me. My number is 808-6868. Feel free to send me a WhatsApp, Matt. I enjoyed it. Let's stay in touch. Send me your email. Go to majorkey.com. so that you could get on our email database. And when we have events like this again, when we send out promotions, when we have updates related to this specifically or development generally, you could be in the loop there. So again, we really appreciate everyone for hanging on for us well beyond the time we had promised. That does indicate that we did provide value for you, and we're glad that we did. Thank you all again, panelists, for staying on, and I bid you all a good day. So what I would like, go ahead.
No, just simply saying it was a pleasure. I think you did a great job today. It was very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do, again, I know the timing, we had originally thought about this idea for Clubhouse, and hence the time, because it's right after an event happens at 10. So we were thinking to go right into 11, but we know that a lot of people aren't on Clubhouse, don't even know what that is. And so what we'd like to do is now repackage this recording into something that people in their own spare time could watch. What we'd like to do, if anyone is open to turning on their camera and just giving some feedback about their 1 or 2 takeaways, that would be very helpful. And if you're open to doing that, you could raise your hand and let us know. No pressure there. Okay. All right, Melbria, let's have you pop that camera on.
Hey, Matt, I can't pop on my camera.
Okay. All right, no problem. Just go ahead then.
But I truly want to say that you guys were phenomenal today. Being a young Bahamian in a society where we're not always digitalized, being able to get this information was amazing. So for me, definitely coming into the real estate game, like I'm new. So a lot of information that was given were questions that I had, were things that I wanted to research and look up and find out information about, especially as it relates to like turning your property into the condo, like into a condo association. That's definitely a route that I really want to take. So just having this information and the panelists being so educated, so intelligent, so well-spoken. Danelle, we actually have a few colleagues in common. You went to Kingsway. I don't mean to put all your business out there, but yes. So I've seen you in Crossing sometimes. So it's definitely, I want to say everybody was good, but I must say it's so good to see my peer being on this platform, being that person. You're a CEO, you're a girl boss. Like you got that, sis, and I love that. So I am really, really, really proud of you for that.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. But I just wanted to tell you guys that you did a phenomenal job. Thanks for the gems. Definitely going to stay in tune, stay in touch with everyone, and just wanted to be a part of this community, elevating and empowering Bahamians, young, old, middle-aged, just getting us there. This is so great, but I just want to thank you, and I'm off.
Thank you, Melbria. Really, really
Okay.
appreciate it. Okay. Anybody else wanted to give some feedback? I see Adeline Lubin on here. Nikita Cash, thanks for jumping on. William Hamilton, Patrick DeVoe, Delana Tucker, Alyssa Stubbs, Jason, Jamal Cash, Ravano Smith, Chris, Jason McDowell, thank you, my brother, for jumping on. Blair Drakes, Kimra Sweeting, Martina Wilson. Okay, all right. No pressure, guys. Again, we thank you for jumping on, and we bid you a good day. If you have not subscribed to 10242 and majorkey.com, do so that you can get further updates on the recording. Thanks again.